Euphoria is over. We've officially seen the last episode of Euphoria ever, and there is so much to say. Like and subscribe so you can find me again, and let's get straight to it. The season finale begins where we left off last episode, with Faye screaming Wayne's name as Rue kneels before her in front of the open safe in Laurie's basement. Rue thinks fast, reaching for a metal tool and brutally smashing Wayne's knee before punching Faye square in the face. Wayne limps brutally after Rue, and right off the bat, this episode feels further in tone from the pilot than any other episode we've seen. The one thing we notice immediately is the silence. Rue's narration is missing. For the first time in the series' 3 seasons, we don't have our omniscient narrator Rue framing things for us. This absence enhances the feeling of horror that we feel in this cold open. As viewers, we really feel that we have been abandoned, adding a sense of unsettling directionlessness to the suspense. Wayne shoots at Rue as she runs through Laurie's tunnely basement. Rue climbs a ladder to an escape hatch, but she is trapped by a horse standing over it. Wayne gains on her, but when he reaches the ladder, we see that Rue has managed to open the hatch. We see the absence of Rue's body, and we feel the absence of her voice. Rue runs for her life down Laurie's long dirt road. She is lassoed by Harley, who rides a horse toward her in his long johns, keeping in theme with the Western motif saturating season 3. We watch as Rue is dragged through the dirt path by the horse until she is saved by G's sniper shot, which knocks Harley off his horse. The camera follows the end of the rope up to Rue's feet as she frees them. She hurries back to Marshawn Lynch, who plays G, to make her getaway as Harley lies in the dirt path screaming for help. Rue gets in the truck as G drives away. They scream and laugh in celebration. This feels like an homage to the first episode of season 3 when Rue drove off after receiving help with her stuck car in Chihuahua. This could be suggesting that Rue is still stuck. She never got unstuck. Cue the title sequence. We cut to Cassie and Maddy sitting across from each other in a booth in a diner. They are wearing the same clothes they were wearing when they dug up Nate's body, and they're completely disheveled. Cassie cries as she pours a disturbing amount of syrup onto her French toast with her nipple hanging out of her dress, and Maddy, still wearing her Virgin Mary dress and cross necklace from last episode, looks directly into the camera and asks, "What do I do?" The tone of this episode is not getting closer to classic Euphoria. It's getting even further away. The silence is particularly notable and, in my opinion, is successful in grabbing our attention and making us feel uneasy. Cassie scoots into the booth next to Maddy and says they'll figure it out together. It's kind of nice to see these two characters so close again, connected for life now by what they've experienced. It's interesting, too, that their bond is knowing the truth of Nate's death. Maddy warned Cassie in season 2 that this was just the beginning, and it was true in a way that was definitely unexpected. In the Silver Slipper, Alamo kisses Rue's bloody head and tells her he's proud of her. He opens 2 bottles of Coke, pouring one for him and one for her, telling her she was right all along, that they were meant to be. Alamo places 2 Percocets onto the bar next to the glasses of Coke. He swallows one of them. Rue tells Alamo that she used to love Percocet. He tells her it's for the pain in her body, not her head, and I think we see that Rue knows that for her that can never be true, but she takes the pill anyway. Alamo gives her a fanny pack filled with money and slides a bottle of Percocet across the table. Rue stares at the bottle like it's her opponent in a Western-style duel. We see another bottle of Coca-Cola in the next scene in Mexico. Bishop watches from a balcony as the Gold Rush ambulance pulls up to the medical clinic to collect Kitty and Christina, Alamo's 2 girls who were sent for plastic surgery as a cover for the smuggling. Big Eddie sends Laurie's guy Mitch in to get the girls. Mitch leaves his half-drunken bottle of Coca-Cola in the cup holder in the vehicle. He returns from the clinic and loads the girls into the ambulance, but it's clear that something is going on. The music is suspenseful, and tension is built through unexplained shots like this woman watching on, and the fact that Bishop is present. Weirdly enough, the bottles of Coke are significant. We've already seen Alamo pour two, one for him and one for Rue. And now we're seeing the bottle play a role with Big Eddie and Mitch. Once he gets back into the passenger seat, Mitch asks where his Coke is. Big Eddie says he thought he was done. This use of Coca-Cola will become significant later in the episode. Rue is on Ollie's couch. They're sitting together watching a black and white film. Rue is wearing an article of clothing that I don't believe we've seen her wear since the season 1 finale when she relapsed. It's the burgundy zip-up hoodie that belonged to her dad and that she wore as an emotional comfort blanket through season 1. This costuming choice is very telling. In season 1, this hoodie was used to explore Rue's trauma and emotional state, particularly as it related to the trauma, anxiety, and addiction problems she struggled with following her dad's death. This costume has been completely absent from season 3, which makes sense because season 3 has not explored Rue's trauma or mental or emotional state in much detail at all. In each season, it feels like the writing has taken us farther and farther away from Rue. This costume signals a return to exploring Rue's mental health and inner pain as it relates to her addiction. It comes way too late for me personally. I loved Euphoria initially for a few reasons. The cinematography, the aesthetic stolen from Petra Collins, but most of all for the writing of Rue's character specifically. The portrayal of addiction and mental illness felt true and real, and gave us real insight into Rue's mental processes. The series has lost that over time, to the point that season 3 doesn't even explore Rue's addiction at all, really. Rue asks Ali, how did so many people get to be so evil? Ali answers that it's easier. It's human nature, and we're selfish. Rue asks, why did God make us like that? This conversation shows us that Rue is still lost, still searching, but it also highlights the closeness between Rue and Ali, the implicit trust she has in him and the things he says. They're watching a black and white film. A man on screen punches another man in the face. The aggressor is then pushed from a height and killed. The last character we saw throw a punch was Rue, who just punched Faye at the start of this episode. This could be foreshadowing that Rue is not going to make it. We've seen this technique used before with Rue in episode 1, when she watched a man on TV buried in the dirt up to his neck, foreshadowing Rue's eventual predicament at the end of episode 6. Big Eddie and Mitch are at the border. The Border Patrol officer questions them, asking what they're transporting. Big Eddie says, a couple of young ladies who weren't satisfied with what God gave them. Small religious references are littered throughout this episode, ensuring that the viewer is constantly reminded that religion is a big theme of season 3. Rue is sleeping on Ollie's couch. She opens her phone, revealing her screensaver, which is a picture of her and Fez. She opens a Bible audiobook app called The Word of Promise. Over the course of season 3, Rue has been searching for the promised land. This word promise has come up repeatedly, and it will come up again in a big way in just a few scenes. Rue messes with her bandaged hand before taking the Percocet bottle from her bag. Back in Laurie's, they're watching a different black and white film. On screen, a woman says, if you can't get justice one way, get it another. This line, for me, foreshadows what happens at the end of the episode with Ali. Wayne and Harley tend to their injuries as Faye arrives with the swapped out, not actually drugs, for Wayne. One of our DEA agents says, I can't wait to nail these fuckers to a cross. Again, a religious reference, this time to the crucifixion of Jesus. This could be a warning that this nailing to the cross will not be the justice the DEA hopes it will be. Wayne sits on the toilet as Faye tells him again that she told him the drugs were laxatives. Wayne finally listens to what Faye is saying, and he puts the pieces together, realizing that it's a setup. The ambulance drives through the night. We hear another line from the black and white movie at Laurie's. After 20 minutes, you ought to be dead. We see a shot of Laurie watching, foreshadowing approaching doom. The birds and dogs start panicking, squawking and barking, and Laurie says they know something we don't. Harley walkie-talkies Wayne and gets no response. We see Wayne and Faye escaping the same way Rue did, up the ladder and out the hatch leading into the barn. They ride on a horse off into the night, riding straight past the ambulance as it drives toward Laurie's. They disappear into a cloud of dust. The ambulance pulls up to the house, and we see a line of cop cars. Helicopter searchlights scan the fields. Animals panic. This sequence feels like a battle between nature and wilderness, the Wild West, versus law and order. The DEA pulls up. Laurie says, "I can't go to prison, I can't," and walks off. In the ambulance, Mitch accuses Big Eddie of setting them up as the two men raise their hands in the air and the girls are removed from the back. Inside the house, Harley stands side by side with his dog. Harley looks like a Jesus figure with a crown of thorns. He asks his dog, "What are we going to do, boy?" The DEA trample over Paladin's grave, destroying the wooden cross in the ground. There is no more faith, no more salvation here. After a tense build-up, Harley places his gun down and surrenders. He gets on his knees and looks up at the sky. For some reason, I think Harley is made to look like a Jesus figure here. He has the long hair that we see the representation of Jesus typically have, but more notably, the blood on his forehead resembles a crown of thorns. This could be a strange callback to the DEA agent saying he can't wait to nail them to the cross. We cut to Laurie standing at the edge of her roof before jumping off, hanging herself. The use of rope in this episode is something to look at. Here we've seen the rope around Rue and now around Laurie. It could show that both characters have been slowly hanging themselves with their choices. The DEA finds only a dead rat under the floorboards of the ambulance. Cut to Mitch's missing half-drunk Coke, rattling around in a cup holder. Bishop is pulling up to Alamo's in a different ambulance. The 80 kilos are in the back. So first, the Coke is used as a device between Alamo and Rue. Now it is used as a device between Laurie's crew and Alamo's. This will all tie together. We now know that Alamo has betrayed Laurie, set her up. And the bottle of Coca-Cola is used as a visual representation of this trickery, this betrayal. It serves the same purpose for Rue and Alamo. This scene of Bishop pulling up to Alamo's with the Coke bottle confirms what is about to happen to Rue. The DEA tells Big Eddie to tell Alamo they look forward to meeting him someday. Big Eddie says, "Tell him yourself, I quit." Maybe Big Eddie did get his salvation, which, as I talked about in my last video, means Rue and the DEA cannot. Cut to Faye standing with her ass and thumb out on the side of the road. A family pulls over and she motions for Wayne, who is hiding in the bushes with a gun. This is the last we ever see of Faye and Wayne. This happens with a few characters in this episode, but this feels like a strange loose end to me. It would have been a better ending to just have them riding off into the night away from Laurie's. Ali wakes up at home. He walks out to his living room where Rue is eating breakfast on the couch, watching TV in her dad's hoodie. Ali says, "You're up early." On TV, we hear breaking news that an inmate has escaped using an unconventional method. The inmate is Fez, and the method is parkour, which Rue referenced on her phone call to Fez in episode 3. This scene feels strange and dreamlike. The show is telling us that something is off. Ali comments on how early Rue has woken up, but the breaking news on TV tells us it's 10:32, which isn't early. The absurdity of the escape story feels out of place, and Ali's reaction feels strangely passive. Rue gets worked up by the news. She says she promised Fez that if he ever got out, she would pick him up. Here, we see how important this word promise is to Rue. Not just in terms of reaching the promised land, but in terms of keeping her word and remaining loyal. Rue hastily runs out of Ali's home, and Ali notices and picks up the bottle of Percocet. Rue drives like a madwoman looking for Fez. She pulls up to the corner store that Fez ran in seasons 1 and 2. Rue becomes emotional at the sight of the vacant lot and drives away. We cut to shots of her and Fez smiling together in a field, adding to the dreamlike quality of this sequence. From this point, we stray further from reality. While driving, Rue passes a car on the road. It is her mom's car from season 1. Her sister Gia is inside. Rue looks at a younger version of herself sitting in the back seat. The younger version of herself watches JULES riding a bike behind the car. Suddenly, Rue is racing down an alley, desperately searching for Fez, sneaking past a police blockade, and running across garage roofs. This whole sequence feels like an homage to Rue's misadventures throughout all 3 seasons. Rue runs to her house, and we see something I thought we'd never see again, Rue's childhood bedroom. She breaks in through a window, picks up a plant from her shelf, and touches it, feeling the soil, which is still fresh, providing further evidence that this isn't reality. Rue puts the plant down and begins walking down the hallway from her bedroom to the kitchen and the living room. We spend so much time here in seasons 1 and 2, but in season 3, these settings were completely removed from the show. Euphoria originally felt so zoomed in, intimate, personal. This was in large part due to the setting of the show. It took place in childhood homes and bedrooms. Season 3 was literally and figuratively zoomed out, relying more on wide shots and external storylines. It has felt alien and jarring not to have these locations, but now, in the season finale, it feels jarring to suddenly be back in Rue's childhood home. Rue finds her mom sitting at a table reading a Bible, following the words with her finger. Her finger hovers over a line that reads, "Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands." This season has been toying a lot with the idea of capitalism and the American dream, with the worshipping of false idols like drugs and money and women. Still, though, the writing feels scattered, not tied together and meaningful. A lot of ideas are presented for us to think about, but it's too many unstructured ideas. Rue watches her mother emotionally. She calls out to her and cries when Leslie looks at her. She smiles, and Leslie reaches an outstretched hand to Rue. Cut to Rue laying on Ali's couch in the same outfit with her earphones in and Bible app playing. She gasps for breath, struggling to get air. Her hand reaches upward into darkness. She is smiling and crying. Back in her childhood home, Rue hugs her mom. Ave Maria begins playing. The same song that played while Kitty experienced her traumatic event in episode 4. This, just like the writing, feels random, and I don't like the connection between the 2 moments. Now, Rue is hugging her dad while crying. She's reaching out on Ali's couch until her outstretched, bandaged hand falls down, disappearing from view and leaving us with a black screen as Ave Maria continues to play and morning breaks through the windows of Ali's home. Ali gets out of bed for real this time. He finds Rue on the couch, but this time she isn't eating breakfast and there is no breaking news. Ali tries to wake Rue, but Rue is dead. Ali tests the pills for fentanyl and gets a positive result. He calls Leslie and says he has some bad news. He steps outside and we watch him speak to her without hearing anything. We watch from the outside, looking in. Ali writes Rue's name and death date in his Book of the Dead. He gives her her own 2 pages, which we saw in the previous episode is not his standard practice. This shows us that Rue's death will have a unique effect on Ali. Ali and Rue served as each other's surrogate family. Ali lost his daughters, and Rue became a daughter figure for him. Rue lost her father, and Ali stepped into that role for her. We cut to Ali in a meeting. He is not wearing the kufi cap that we traditionally see him in, and which has associations with Islamic cultures. Ali gives a long speech about religion and his personal beliefs. I used to believe the world would be a better place if people could empathize with addiction. I thought empathy was the key, but if you can empathize with an addict, you can empathize with a dealer. Maybe empathy isn't that helpful after all. And maybe the real disease is that people don't know the difference between right and wrong. Number one cause of death for people under the age of 50 is fentanyl, and that ain't an accident. That's big business. He calls out the sheer amount of people who have to be complicit for this to work. Corrupt cops, the government, lawyers, politicians, the kid on the corner, the people who make the chemicals, shipping companies, dock workers, cartels, cookers, border bureaucrats, nonprofits. We learn it's been a couple months since he lost Rue. He relapsed because he didn't know what to do with the pain. He talks about having been a Christian and a Muslim, and suddenly, when Rue died, he didn't believe in shit, but that isn't it either. He's tired of losing people. He says he's done. The only thing he knows for certain is there's a right and wrong. No in between. You're either making the world a better place or you're making it worse. He tells the group, "This is going to be my last meet. I'm going to find another way to be of better service." Cut to him creating a sawed-off shotgun. This is a lot to take in. Given how many ideas and loose ends this episode had to tackle, it actually has done an okay job of wrapping everything up and tying themes together. But still, it feels like a mess of capitalism, religion, politics, and more, fighting for attention and failing to drive home any real message. Jules sits in her apartment in front of a mostly blank canvas. She uses primarily the color yellow. Yellow has been Rue's color this season. This is the color we see her most commonly wear. Jules paints a portrait of Rue while she cries. Ellis, Jules' sugar daddy, comes out and pours himself a cup of coffee, and Jules steps back to look at her finished piece. It's Rue, and it looks like she's being consumed by flames. Fire has played such a large role in season 3, and I was wondering in my last video what fire would end up representing for Rue. Unfortunately, the flames of her addiction consume her. Rue reached for redemption and rebirth, but she fell into the fiery pit of self-destruction. Just one note on Jules before we move on. Jules featured so prominently in seasons 1 and 2, and in this season, she was really more like a side character. So I'm curious to see what you think of this ending for Jules. Her main sort of storyline this season, I think, was the sugar daddy storyline, and then also her being commissioned to paint for LA Nights. But neither storyline was really fleshed out or wrapped up in any way. Cut to Cassie and Lexi. Cassie is back living in her and Nate's house where she started the season, except now she is using it to run a content house for girls. The girls get room and board in exchange for giving a percentage of what they earn. We see in a sticky note that Kitty is one of the girls. Magic is not. We don't get any sort of conclusion for the character of Magic, played by Rosalia, who is featured in episodes throughout the season. Another little loose end that bothers me. To have this character feature so prominently in Rue's storyline, and even Maddy's, and then to leave her completely unacknowledged and absent in the series finale, feels so lazy. Cassie looks like a pinup-style housewife in a pink gingham set. I like this sort of inversion of Cassie's dream come true. She is dressed the part of a housewife, and she's gotten everything she wanted in episode 1 of season 3, But now Nate is gone. She isn't a real wife anymore. Cassie wants Lexi to work with her as a storyteller. She takes a large sum of money out of a safe and places it in an envelope as Maddy walks down the stairs. Cassie applies lipstick to kiss the envelope and hands it to Maddy, who says, "Don't wait up for me, I'll be late." Cassie says it'll be easier if you pretend to like him. Maddy and Cassie are living together in Cassie and Nate's marital home. Maddy leaves and gets into Bishop's car. She talks to him about the third passenger, Bishop's white poodle, Snowflake, charming him. She says he doesn't strike her as a poodle guy, and Bishop says, "I like to surprise people." Maddy answers, "You know what I would find surprising? A little grace in this world." Remember both of these lines. Both are important for what happens later. Lexi asks Cassie if she thinks Nate is ever going to come back. Cassie says she hopes so. Lexi asks about Nate some more, and Cassie says she doesn't like to think about it. This feels reminiscent of when they were in high school sharing a room, with Cassie shutting Lexi down. Lexi talks about how Rue's Bible sat on her couch right where Rue left it for about a month before Lexi moved it to a bookshelf and started reading it. Lexi tells Cassie that the Bible had a lot of sex and violence, just like the Dylan Reed hat we saw in the last episode. I wonder if this is meant to be a little joke about why the Bible is still so captivating to people after so long, that it has all the elements of what human beings consider to be an entertaining story. It could be drawing attention to how human nature doesn't change. Sex and violence have always driven us and always will. Lexi says the Bible was beautiful, confusing, and fascinating, and made her think that certain things aren't her fault. She has a lot of guilt about how she left things with Rue. Cassie says, well, she was a drug addict. Lexi says in the Bible, everyone is dying of all different things and they just keep going. And that's the heart of it, I think. Bad things happen. So why have anxiety about it? Like, what good does it do? No matter what, you just keep going, and that's the point of it, I think. Cassie says Rue had a really nice smile. I think a smile says a lot about a person. When you smile, other people smile. It's contagious. This whole conversation felt extremely weird and off-putting to me. I guess maybe Sam Levinson was trying to show how people speak about addicts when their addiction wins, but I don't like this scene. Lexi's speech felt self-righteous and self-pitying, which is consistent with her character, but still. The dialogue about the smile is bizarre. Let me know if there's something I'm missing here, because I am baffled. Lexi turns down Cassie's offer to work together. The sisters wave goodbye. The composition emphasizes the distance that we've always felt between them. Nothing has really changed with the Howard sisters. Cassie looks at a photo of her and Nate, a ring light illuminating her from behind. She cries. We see her sitting on her bed with her laptop and props around her, ring light and camera pointed at her. The camera zooms out and we see Cassie from outside the empty mansion that she once shared with Nate. She got what she wanted, an OnlyFans, money, the house with the pool, but she didn't get the one thing that Cassie has been desperately chasing since season 1, romantic love. I do, however, think that there was a love shown between Maddy and Cassie, who live in the house, which I don't mind as an ending for them. Back in the Silver Slipper, Alamo smokes a cigar at a table. Maddy arrives and joins him. Bishop brings his poodle in a bag over to Kid's table. Bishop watches as Alamo kisses Maddy, grabs her hand, and leads her away. Bishop tells Kid to watch Snowflake and follows Maddy and Alamo to the back room. Bishop helps Alamo remove his harness and gun, and then helps him back into his jacket. The camera lingers on Bishop, and the door closes, separating him from Maddy and Alamo. The camera stays with Bishop until we follow his eyes to Alamo's snake. This shot reestablishes the connection between Bishop and the snake that was established in episode 6. A man dressed in a military uniform enters the Silver Slipper and bolts the door shut. The camera follows him inside without revealing his identity. The diegetic sound is almost completely drowned out by the threatening music and the isolated booming sound of the man's footsteps. Cut to Maddy and Alamo in the back room. Alamo is telling Maddy that he had an epiphany. He's dedicated his life to pussy, and he was consumed by this fear that he might run the club, but pussy still runs him, so what the fuck has he been doing all this time? Maddy says he's been building a business, and he says for what? For who? Maddy answers, for you, to be free. Alamo's response is, free? I'm just another slave with a little more money in my hand. Here is some further exploration of the American dream, which is an illusion that perpetuates capitalism. Alamo acknowledges this. He has money, but freedom is an illusion. The camera follows Kitty's absolutely absurd BBL through the club over to the uniformed man. When she tries to touch him, he stops her by grabbing her hand aggressively. It's Ali. He asks for the manager. Kitty gets G to talk with Ali. He leaves the girls he was with, telling them to keep that shit wet, which is sort of funny considering what is about to happen. Maddy tells Alamo that he needs to lay off the merchandise. She sits on his lap, and he tells her that that thing she has between her legs is a miracle. Again, intentionally religious language. Alamo speaks about white picket fences in Norman Rockwell, calling to mind classic images of the American dream. Maddy asks, us? And Alamo says, it's biblical. He says, I want the American dream. I'm owed the American dream. The American dream and religion have always been so deliberately intertwined. Alamo reveals here that he, too, is a victim of this thought process. They kiss and we feel how trapped Maddy is. G approaches Ali, who introduces himself as a friend of Rue's. Bishop stands next to the snake, further solidifying their connection. This snake serves as a reminder, just like Bishop told Rue in episode 6, that you never really know someone's true intentions. Ali cocks his gun at G under the table and tells G to sit down. G is wearing a cross necklace. Some more religious imagery in a contrasting context, perhaps showing how people use religion to justify their actions or absolve themselves, or maybe begging the question of where God is in a place like this. G tells Ali that Alamo Brown is in the building. He tells Ali that Rue overdosed on fentanyl. Ali pulls out the nearly full bottle of Percocet that Alamo gave Rue and tells G he lied to him. In a panic, G stands, reaching for his gun, and Ali shoots him in the crotch, rendering it useless for the type of activities he was hoping to return to. Marshawn Lynch flies across the room, and a shootout ensues. Bishop checks the carriage of Alamo's gold gun. It's full. Ali shouts for Alamo echo through the club. Ali gains control of the shootout, and Alamo breaks the glass of the window to his private room, shattering the barrier between him and Ali, and knocking Ali to the ground and his gun from his hands. Ali quickly recovers his gun, and Alamo uses Maddy as a human shield. Ali refuses to shoot, and Alamo pushes Maddy to the ground to buy himself time to retrieve his gun from Bishop. They are going to settle this the old-fashioned way, with a duel. Alamo says, word is bond, and Ali repeats it. In true cowboy fashion, Alamo emerges from behind saloon doors. The camera cuts mostly between shots of Alamo, Ali, and Bishop. Ali says Rue sent him, and Alamo tells Kitty to grab him a champagne bottle. This feels pointless and, worse than that, tasteless to me. Already, I didn't see the purpose in including an assault scene involving a champagne bottle, but it was included in episode 4, titled Kitty Likes to Dance. What was happening to Kitty in that room was already traumatic and shocking enough. Pushing it that bit farther was unnecessary and, in my opinion, distasteful, given the fact that this season in particular does nothing meaningful to explore the impact of sexual or domestic violence, or violence against women at all. Alamo has Kitty bring him the champagne bottle and he downs what's left of it. When offered some, Ali tells Alamo he doesn't drink, confirming that he has maintained sobriety after relapsing post-Rue's death. Alamo explains that Kitty will roll the champagne bottle across the bar. When it shatters, they will shoot. No shooting before the bottle shatters. A Western-style instrumental of Amazing Grace plays in the background. The song choice calls to mind what Maddy said to Bishop in the car, that you know what she would find surprising? A little grace in this world. They agree no cheating, and Bishop walks through the saloon doors to watch. Bishop holds his prayer beads out and Kitty lets the bottle roll. Long before the bottle shatters, Alamo raises his gold gun to shoot. He pulls the trigger several times, but there are no bullets. The bottle shatters. Alamo turns to Bishop and says, "I'll see you in hell, mother." Ali shoots him before he can finish. He shoots again and Alamo falls backwards through the saloon doors. Ali shoots a final shot, blowing Alamo's head off. Ali walks out and looks at Bishop still clutching his beads. Bishop lets the gold bullets fall to the puddle of blood in the carpet. He says, "May God have mercy." Ali walks out, leaving Bishop unharmed. The use of religion here, again, to demonstrate a certain set of moral values is interesting because we've seen it used in so many different ways throughout the season. Ali walks out, leaving Bishop unharmed. Bishop turns to Maddy, "Can I give you a ride home?" extending the beads. The beads have been a feature of Bishop's character throughout this season. Their meaning has been unclear, and honestly, I'm unsure of what specific type of beads they are and what religion they're associated with, so please do leave a comment if you know and feel so inclined. Maddy grabs her envelope of cash, Bishop grabs Snowflake, Kitty grabs her phone, and the three exit the Silver Slipper together. The name Bishop is interesting. Not only is it another reference to religion, bishops are senior members of the Christian clergy, but it is also a chess reference, and Bishop has certainly been playing chess all season. In chess, the bishop does not necessarily have much power at the beginning of a match, but it can become a powerful piece as the game progresses. This is exactly what we have seen with Bishop this season. He has been lurking in the shadows, always there, but never assuming any ungiven power. Now, in the finale, we see him claim his power and kill the king. Cut to the homestead on 613 Jerusalem Road. The older daughter who drove Rue to the bus in episode 1 is hanging laundry out to dry when Ali pulls up. The father comes out to greet him. Ali explains that his daughter visited this place and said it was the most peaceful place she'd ever been. "Ruby?" the daughter asks. Ali says she's in a better place, and the father invites him inside. Ali is wearing a hat that says Zion National Park. Zion is a biblical name for the city of Jerusalem, which is the promised land in the Bible. This place is Rue's promised land. And Ali was right. Just like Moses, Rue didn't make it. Inside, as one of the children sets the table, we see the empty chair Rue once sat in as Ali smokes outside. He walks through the same places Rue walked through and talks to the same people. We see the same religious imagery up on the wall. This time, Ali sits at the end of the table. He is going by the name Martin again. Ali leads the family in prayer. He cries. He says, "Thank you, Rue. Let her memory be a blessing." The empty chair is suddenly populated by Rue, who says, "Amen." They smile at each other. We get our final shot of the homestead with an American flag waving in the wind in the foreground. Rue finally enters as narrator, just as the episode ends. She says, May God bless us all. And that's the end of Euphoria forever. I guess Rue didn't make it to the promised land, and she didn't personally lead Alamo's girls to the promised land, but she did indirectly. Because of Rue, Ali took down the oppressive force that was Alamo, freeing the girls under his control. In a way, Rue led Ali to the promised land. Please comment your thoughts. I'd love to discuss. This is my 4th video, so I will keep improving, and I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. That is if you liked this. Thanks so much for watching.